So this sutta is called Chula Sunyata Sutta. Now look at this word, so Chula. Now Chula has two meanings. The way this is spelled, sometimes it is spelled C-U-L-L-A, for example. Here it means lesser, smaller. But Chula here also means the top knot on a child's head or the head of a prince. Okay, but here it means smaller, lesser. Okay. Once you see Chula, that means it hints that there is another sutta of the same name, which is Mahasunyata Sutta. In fact, now you notice the number here is M121, this Majjhima Sutta, the middle line Sutta number 121. So there is number 122, which is the Mahasunyata Sutta, which is slightly longer. Okay. So in this case, the Chula here means it is slightly shorter, but it is, although it is shorter, it's, in a sense, it is more important because it talks about meditation on emptiness. Now, sunyata here is an adjective. Notice the short a here. If it's a macron, a line over the a, that means it's a double value along r. We say r. We don't say a. R. No, the sound of the letters r. This is sunyata. Okay, short a. Or it is a noun, is sunyata, okay? Emptiness, voidness. Sutta discourse, okay? The discourse on the lesser discourse on the void or on what is empty and so on. So you can see the translation here, the lesser discourse on emptiness, M121. And the theme here is the realization of impermanence in the highest meditation. This is one of those rare suttas where the Buddha talks about the formless jhanas. Usually the Buddha will talk about the form jhanas, but this is one of those suttas where he talks about the formless jhanas. And he also talks about the forest meditation in the literal sense of the word, meditating on the forest itself. Now we will look at it in a moment, okay? So what is the story behind this sutta? Okay, let's go down to the translation itself now. Okay, yes, here we are. There you can see Chula Sunyata Sutta, the lesser discourse on emptiness, M121. Now you may see the top line here, M331. Okay. Now here you see 331. Okay. Now here you have to separate this little number here, which I've forgotten to do. Should have done that. Eh? Okay, so here this is the traditional numbering, especially in the Burmese Sixth Council Sutta Pitaka. Majjhima Nikaya, part 3 or the 350s, Panasa means 50, okay? And then it is in the Uparipanasa. So Upari means the first 50, section 3 of the first 50. And the section 3 is called Sunyata Vagga, the empty chapter, or the chapter on emptiness, Sutta number 1. Okay, so this is the traditional number. The traditional number depends on memory, right? So the moment you look at it, you kind of look at it at once. Whereas the modern number, we use a running number M121, okay? Right, so it's the same, M331, traditional numbering, or modern numbering M121. The square brackets number is the Pali page of the Pali Text Society, published in Britain, page 104. So you find there are other different pages of the Burmese edition, the Singlish edition, Thai edition. And here is the paragraph numbering, okay? Now here I need to explain a little bit because the British during the Victorian times, 100 years ago, they edicted the Pali Suttas, and the numbers, they kind of did not divide the sutta into smaller bits, very big chunks of it. So You find one agrees here, but later on you see in square brackets. You can go down a bit, just go down a bit. Let me show them the square brackets here. Okay. All right, here you see 4, okay? 4. Well, looks like 1, 2, 3 is missing. Okay, so this 4, it means page 4 of no, sorry, the section 4 of the Pali text. So you can see this is quite a big section, and then after that 5 further down, a big chunk here. So yeah, you can go down some more. You find 5 is kind of missing. All right. So can you imagine Masuta with very few numbers? So it's very hard to refer. So what I've done is I have kept the original numbering there in square brackets. There's a footnote there. Okay. So the footnote tells you this is the Pali text of PTS number. And then here I put in our own numbering, so easy to refer when we study the suttas. All right. So in this way, we preserve both traditions. Okay, let's go back to the top. All right, so we start off as usual. Thus have I heard. And this means that this sutta is handed down through being heard. Ananda listens to this teaching from the Buddha, and then he recites it to the 500 arahats who recite together, and then they recite it to their pupils. It goes on like that, okay, for a few hundred years. And then it was written down in different places, especially Sri Lanka. And then now we have the suttas in printed form. And also online, you find there are many versions available online now. And each country has got a number of versions. Like, for example, Sri Lanka has got 2 or 3 other versions. Myanmar also has got a few versions. Because some of these versions come from very ancient manuscripts. And in Thailand also you have 3, 4 versions. All right, so now one is a section, and sometimes I will use a decimal 1.2 because they're kind of connected. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in the mansion of Megara's mother in the Pubarama Eastern Monastery near Savatthi. So Savatthi is somewhere in the northern India, the center of the Gangetic Plain. All right, and then this is a big building built by Vishaka. So it's called, Vishaka's nickname is Megara's mother. Actually, Megara is the father-in-law. It's called father-in-law's mother because he was a teacher to the father-in-law. So it is a mansion they built for the monks, for the Buddha. Like the 500 monks can stay there at one time. Then when it was evening, the Venerable Ananda rose from his retreat, went to the Blessed One, and after saluting the Blessed One, sat down at one side. So this is the daily routine of the Buddha and the monks. They will meditate early in the morning before the sunrise, and when the sun rises, they kind of rise with the sun, if you like. And then in the evening, when it's near sunset, they again going to retreat. Sunrise, sunset, something like that. So this is one of those moments. Ananda comes out of his meditation retreat, solitary retreat, and goes to the Buddha. He went to the Blessed One, and after saluting the Blessed One, sat down at one side. Sitting thus at one side, the Venerable Ananda said this to the Blessed One. So you see this routine of calmness and respect, and the other monks are watching and so on. So here Ananda starts off the sutta. He says, Bhante, Bhante simply means sir. Once the Blessed One was living amongst the Sakyas. There is this Sakya town called Nagaraka. There, Bhante, I heard and learned this from the Blessed One himself, or learned this from the Blessed One face to face. Thus, right, so Ananda is saying he heard this teaching from the Buddha. Even now, Ananda, I am one who is much devoted to abiding in emptiness. Have I heard this correctly? Or have I heard this correctly? Grasped or learned this correctly? Attended to this correctly? Remembered this correctly? So notice here, Ananda uses heard, grasped, attended, remembered as synonyms. These are all words for learning, right? So this is the oral tradition. So if you miss one word, then you can hear the others, and it helps you to remember what Ananda is saying. So the Buddha is Ananda has come to the Buddha and said, "Well, I heard this teaching. Is it correct? I mean, did I remember this teaching correctly?" Then the Buddha replies, 4.2, "Certainly, Ananda, you have heard it correctly, grasped it correctly, attended it correctly, remembered it correctly. As before, Ananda, so do I now often abide in emptiness." As before is referring to that time in the past. And it says, I still do this. So this is the Buddha's practice of meditating in emptiness, so to speak, abide in emptiness. So it is because of this prompting, you have the whole sutta from now right to the end, because of Ananda, right? So now you have that there is internal numbering here, the various stages of meditation that the Buddha talks about in terms of emptiness. Now, this is very interesting because this meditation is not ordinary meditation. It is very difficult for us to do, but it is interesting in terms of psychology and nature of the mind, because here the Buddha gives us an idea from his own experience how we can start meditating right from where we are. And then from there, we build up the practice. Okay. Now, where we are here refers to, in this case, the residence, the Eastern Park, Pubarama. Pubarama means East Park or Eastern Park, okay, where this building is located, all right? So the Buddha starts off with this building where they are in, and then the park, which is a forest, right? And then the Buddha goes on to meditation of the earth meditation, and then the four formless jhanas. Now, you all have heard of the form jhanas, right? So usually we talk about the form jhanas, first 4 form jhanas, and then 4 formless jhanas. And then the ninth one is cessation. So they're kind of like 9 jhanas, if you like, okay? So let me quickly mention this for those who are new. Jhana is a very deep kind of meditation. When you are free from the body, you are no more troubled by the body, you sit very still, very calm, you don't feel the body anymore, so no more pain. The mind is totally focused on the breath, and it's very peaceful. There's no more distraction. And that's called the first jhana. First jhana is very joyful. Okay? And then when the joy goes away, then you get a second jhana. Second jhana is even deeper still. And then third jhana, there's more kind of silence of the mind. And then the fourth jhana, there is this equanimity, total stillness. So those are the 4 very deep jhanas. They're not easy for lay people to attain, but it is possible. And once you reach the 4th jhana, if you practice properly, you can attain the 4 more jhanas. So in other words, these 4 formless jhanas, they are based on the 4th form jhana, when the mind is totally equanimous. There is no more feeling of pain or pleasure. It's totally calm. Okay? And then after you go on to the 4 formless jhanas, which are given in detail in this book. Let me just kind of again simplify them for you first. So once you're in the 4th jhana, you focus on space. All right, you use infinite space. In other words, you picture space in your mind as having no beginning, no end. Because the mind is, remember, in fourth jhana, the mind is very focused. So the meditator, or you as a meditator, come out of this jhana, then you direct your mind to the boundless space, infinite space. You use that as the object. And then when you are focused on that, that is the first formless jhana. And then, of course, this it has to go on over a long time, to master all this, right? So I mean, just giving a summary. And then this meditator, after developing, mastering this first formless jhana, he or she will this time let go of this infinite space, right? And use the mind that is observing this infinite space as the object. So this is the infinite consciousness. In other words, the mind is what is aware of this infinite space. That's called infinite consciousness, or infinite mind, or the boundless mind. So that becomes the focus. So instead of something outside, so to speak, it's now focused on something inside. That is the mind itself. So this is the second formless jhana, or dhyana in English, yes, in Sanskrit. So this person goes on meditating until it's very good, until he has mastered the second jhana, second formless jhana. Formless because it's got no form like the first form. This time, the person is so good that it comes out of this second formless jhana and lets go of the object of infinite consciousness, the mind itself. He lets go of that object. So there's no more object, that is the infinite consciousness. There is nothingness. And that is the object of the third formless jhana, nothingness. So it's called the sphere of nothingness. This is interesting because nothingness here is the object. So imagine how difficult is this. It's really advanced. So this shows that this is possible. Very subtle meditation. Okay. Now there is one more step. So after a long time, this person masters this meditation. He comes out of this meditation, then he lets go of this object that is nothingness itself. Now you come to this really deep meditation, which is rarely mentioned in the suttas, because although it is really very high and very refined, it's not very helpful. Why? Because in this fourth formless jhana, there is the consciousness is so refined, the consciousness is so subtle, you cannot say it exists or does not exist. So this fourth formless jhana is called the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. So perception means consciousness. There's nothing to be aware of. And yet you are still there, you're mindful. See? So it's very subtle. So you can't do much with it. Just enjoy it. You don't have to be enlightened to reach all these four levels. Then there is a special ninth so-called jhana. That's called cessation. In this case, the person is already either an arahat or at least a non-returner. And this person is able to go even beyond this fourth formless jhana and just go into this signless meditation without any object. By that time, he's already very good, he's already awakened, and he goes into deep cessation where the whole body seems to shut down. And technically, by modern measurements, the person is dead. And this person can go into this kind of deep meditation for 7 days. at the most. Okay, after that, he will come out of it naturally. So that is called cessation, right? So now cessation is not mentioned in this sutta. Only the signless meditation is mentioned. Okay, there is an indirect hint of the cessation, if you like. But anyway, what is mentioned here is the signless concentration of mind. So that is the 9th jhana, if you like. So that's a bit of overview. Now you can read all about this there's a special article called Jhana. If you want it to be sent to you, just contact us. So now let's look at what the Buddha teaches, or rather teaches us, reminds Ananda how this is done. Okay. Yeah. Now let's look at the sutta again. So we start with number 1 here, big brackets 1. Ananda, just as this mention of Megara's mother is empty of elephants, cattle, horses, and mares, empty of silver and gold, empty of the gathering of women and men, and there is only this non-emptiness, namely the oneness or the unity dependent on the community of monks. Now there's a bit of wordplay here. Take this word oneness, for example. It can mean unity, that the Sangha is unified, united. It also can mean they are at peace and they're focused. Right? So here the Buddha is saying we can begin by just looking around here. If you look at this building, there are no animals. There's no money, gold, silver, and there are no men and women at that time. Okay. So then the Buddha uses the word non-emptiness as a guiding word. This is meditators talk, okay? Non-emptiness, non-emptiness. So the Buddha doesn't say a thing, it says non-emptiness, not empty. And that not emptiness is the oneness of the Sangha. The monks who are gathered there, they are at peace, they are also very focused. So too, amongst, now the Buddha said, this is what you can do. This is theory, this is practice. So too among not attending to the perception of a village, not attending to the perception of people, attends to the oneness dependent on the perception of a forest. Okay, there you are, this is the forest meditation. So here, look at how the Buddha skillfully guides us. It's just like we look at this whole place, this beautiful mansion built by Megara's mother, empty of worldliness. Then you see this emptiness, then you let go of even what's outside this building. That's the village and the people. You let go of all that, renounce the world, in other words, to meditate. And that's what we all did just now for half an hour, or 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or 20 minutes. We let go of the world for a while, and then we build up this loving kindness, then we send it back to the world. Okay. But in breath meditation, you see that renunciation even more so. But here, we send back the loving kindness to people we care for and so on. So in this case, the Buddha said, then after that, we even let go of any perception, any thoughts about the village, about people. Then we look at the forest, just the forest, just as it is, trees, leaves, and our mind is focused. Okay, so this is the first practice. All right, let's see, I think it's a bit more, right? Okay, let's go down a bit more. So what happens? Then his mind plunges into that perception of a forest, brightens up, steadies, and frees itself. Now, this word plunges means joyfully. It feels very joyful. This joyfulness welling up. Okay, so he brightens up. The mind becomes calm and free from hindrances, free from the body. Right? Brightens, steadies, frees. Okay. Brightens means his mind is focused on the mental object. It attains samadhi, and it is free from the hindrances. Okay. Then, coming out of the meditation later on, he reflects. Whatever breaking up or disturbance there might be on account of the perception of a village, there are none here. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the perception of people, there are none here. All right. So this one is, in other words, is looking back at what he has renounced, what the meditator has renounced. He let go of the world, becoming more peaceful now. There is only this much breaking up or disturbance, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of a forest. Okay, let me just briefly mention this word breaking up. The Pali word is dharata, right? If you look at note 40, the word is dharata. It's one of those really difficult words. You find different translations of this term in the translation available today, right? And I don't think anyone has translated this word dharata as breaking up. They usually recommend disturbance, so I put in square brackets here. Why do I use breaking up? Because breaking up is the opposite of oneness. Right? In order to gain oneness, you got to let go of things that break up. What are the things that break up? The things of the world. They are impermanent. They break up, right? So you see people moving around all over the place, right? And then you see the forest very calm, very still, green, and the trees are there. You use that as an object, okay? So, but even forests also break up, they're impermanent, but there is this oneness, there is this focus, there is this samadhi when you look at the beautiful treetops. You have to try this one day. Go to a place where you can see the top of trees, all trees as far as the eye can see, and you feel so peaceful. Trees have this beautiful effect on the mind. All right. So that's called perception of a forest. Yet all these are breaking up. But we don't focus on the breaking up. This is what the Buddha is telling us. He uses this word breaking up to connect all the stages of meditation. As we go along, I will explain to you the connection. All right. So now he understands this. So this is the Vipassana side, all right, understands. This earlier part, he gets all the focus and samadhi, that's the samatha side, all right? So you need both, samatha, vipassana. He understands this. This field of perception is empty of the perception of the village, right? So there's no connection with the world, at least at this point. He understands this. This field of perception is empty of the perception of people. Field of perception here is the mind that's meditating, does not see people. It has let go of that vision, that perception, that attachment. There is only this non-emptiness. Notice the word non-emptiness mentioned again. Right? It is opposite of the world, and yet it's not totally nirvana yet. So it's a kind of in-between word, non-emptiness, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of the forest. So this is the first mental concentration that the monks are taught, the Ananda is taught, right? Thus he regards what is not there as empty, right? Right. So this forest is empty of forests, empty of people, empty of the village. So we start off reflecting emptiness in that way. So notice how simple it is, nothing philosophical, but it is a meditational reflection. We are free from all this. Right now, as you are sitting here, you can reflect in this way. I'm free from my house duties. I'm free from my work duties. They are empty to me now because I'm right here. There is this non-emptiness I'm working on, all right? But as to what remains there, he understands what that is thus. There is this. There is this. So you affirm and say, wow, this is it. This is that peace. This is that focus. So in other words, we are reminding ourselves, we have come to this point where we feel at peace and we feel focused. Right, there's one last line, and then we'll stop here for the moment. Let's go further down. Go down a bit. Okay. Thus, Ananda, this is his truly real, undistorted, utterly descent into emptiness. So this is the first stage that he has attained, emptiness. Okay. All right, so we'll stop here for a while. All right, let's look at section 13 now. So now we come to number 2. Notice his brackets 2, the perception of earth. Now notice the word used is perception here. So it's a kind of meditation, but not very deep yet. It's kind of just watching with the mind, with a focused mind. Furthermore, Ananda, a monk, here meaning meditator, not attending to the perception of people, not attending to the perception of the forest, then attends to the oneness dependent on the perception of earth. His mind plunges into the perception of earth, brightens up, steadies, breathes itself. So it's a gradual progress in meditation. So the meditator looks at the whole forest, the trees, and feels peaceful and focused. And then he now visualizes earth, or he looks at a piece of open ground as earth, all right? So these are different ways it is done. You've got to look under Kasina meditation. This will be explained as this is a Kasina meditation, element meditation. So he sees everything as earth, okay? And that he uses earth to focus his mind, it brightens up, steadies itself, and frees itself from the body, from the senses. He gets into jhana, okay? Here it can be first, usually the easiest is the first jhana, or even higher jhana, second, third, or fourth, right? Now, this is the only section in the sutta where there is a metaphor, a simile. What this perception of earth or earth meditation is like. And here it is, section 14. Just as a bull's hide, the skin of a bull or cow, becomes free from crinkles when fully stretched with 100 stakes, even so, Ananda, among neither attending to any of the high, dry areas and the low or swampy areas of this earth, nor to rivers that are difficult to ford, nor to sharp stumps and thorns, nor to rugged mountains, attends to the oneness that is dependent on the perception of earth. So here, in other words, he sees the earth as completely flat, right? So the idea is element of solidity, resistance, earth. His mind plunges into that perception of earth, brightens up, steadies, and frees itself. He understands this, right? So this always the Vipassana side comes out and reflects. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the perception of people, there are none here. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the perception of a forest, there are none here. There is only this much breaking up, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of earth. So in other words, he sees the earth as it is, watches it, right? Further down, 17, he understands this. This field of perception is empty of the perception of people. He understands thus this perception, this field of perception is empty of the perception of a forest. Notice these are repeated because this is how the mind works gradually, step by step, so that you are focused. There is only this non-emptiness, that is the oneness dependent on the perception of earth. It's called non-emptiness because you're watching it. It is not empty in that sense. Thus, he regards what is not there as empty. What is not there as empty. Word not, okay? As to what remains there, he knows what that is, thus there is this. So acknowledges this is it, this is the earth, okay, and this is it, without naming it. After knowing it, he goes on to simply acknowledge it without having to name. Thus, Ananda, this is his truly real, undistorted, utterly pure descent into emptiness. So it goes from what is outside, what is crowded and worldly, into more and more subtle level of the mind. Okay. All right, let's go to next section further down. 19. Now notice the number 3. Now he goes into perception of the sphere of infinite space. So from Earth into space. This is like some kind of science fiction movie, right? So infinite space. Notice here number 6. This is the number of the Polytech Society Beijing. This round brackets is the section number, paragraph here, ideas. Idea number 3. Furthermore, Ananda, among not attending to the perception of a forest, not attending to the perception of earth, then attends to the oneness dependent on perception of the sphere of infinite space, right? So his mind becomes focused because of the earth element, and he lets go of the earth element, and then he just meditate on space. His mind plunges into that perception of the sphere of infinite space, space as boundless. It brightens up, steadies, and frees itself. The mind attains jhana. And then comes out of it, he reflects, he understands thus. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the possession of a forest, there are none here. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of possession of earth, there are none here. There is only this much breaking up, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of the sphere of infinite space. The breaking up here is not the infinite space itself, although space can, in a sense, break up when you let go of the object. Here, what is breaking up is all the previous objects. Their nature is to break up anyway. So remember, whenever it says this understands thus, it means he comes out of the meditation, then he reflects. He can't do this while in jhana. In jhana, you're in deep meditation. There's no thinking going on. So he understands that this field of possession is empty of the forest, empty of earth, right? So I'll just jump this word. There is only this non-emptiness, namely the oneness. Okay? This oneness is non-emptiness. The oneness dependent on the perception of the sphere of infinite space. This oneness here refers to, you can say it's jhana if you like. Thus, he regards what is not there as empty, right? So he looks at infinite space, others are all empty. In other words, this focus on the infinite space has renounced everything else. They're not there. But as to what remains there, he knows what that is. Thus, there is this. His focus in the present moment, the present object. This is it. Thus, Ananda, this is his truly real, undistorted, utterly pure descent into emptiness. Focus. So this is focus on infinite space. Then he lets go of that object. Of course, not immediately here. He has done practice over a long, long time. And then What happens when it lets go of infinite space? Number 4 now. Let's go down. Stage 4. Furthermore, Ananda, among not attending to the possession of earth, which we began with, remember? Not attending to the possession of sphere of infinite space, which was the second one, right? And then he attends to the oneness dependent on perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness. Remember, once you let go of space, there is the mind watching the space. There is just, you watch the mind itself, okay? The infinite mind, the infinite consciousness. His mind plunges into that perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness. Plunges means fully absorbed, fully meditating, fully aware, and so that mind brightens up, steadies, and frees itself. So you see, this word brightens up is mentioned every time. The mind in jhana is bright. The natural mind is bright. He understands thus. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the perception of earth, there are none here. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the possession of the sphere of infinite space, there are none here. So in other words, this stage is even more refined than the previous one, right? This is infinite consciousness, previous one, infinite space. There is only this much breaking up, namely, the oneness dependent on the perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness. Now, I want you to stop for a moment and watch what's going on in your mind. As you listen to me, you can follow, you understand. So, okay, I can see this. This is the meaning of breaking up. This is the next thing. After that, you say, what was that? Now I don't understand it. Because this memory is short. That is why you need to repeat this over and over until you say, okay, now it's clear to me. So you're getting this understanding, just a glimpse of it. The Dharma is coming through, right? And that is how you start learning. Then you go on reflecting, it becomes clearer, more permanent. It's like you look through a telescope, you see a blur image of a star. You know it's there, but you can't see the star very well. You got to go on focusing until you get this really clear. And you got to keep your telescope very still in order to get that image, like something like that. So the mind is the telescope. So then he comes out of his meditation, he understands that this field of perception is empty of earth. He understands that this field of perception is empty of the perception of infinite space. Further down, there is only this non-emptiness, namely the oneness dependent on this perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness. No? Thus he regards what is not there as empty. But as to what remains there, he knows what it is. Thus, there is this. That's all there is, this. That's Ananda. This is truly real, undistorted, utterly pure descent into emptiness. What's happening here is, it's like a multi-stage rocket. It's letting go of the previous stages, letting go of the porous perception, and then the earth, infinite space, infinite consciousness. Now it comes to stage 5, the sphere of nothingness. Furthermore, Ananda, a monk not attending to the possession of the sphere of infinite space, not attending to the sphere of infinite consciousness, then attends to the oneness that is dependent on the perception of nothingness. So in this sutta, I notice only the previous 2 meditation I mentioned, all right? And then this is the present one, sphere of nothingness. His mind plunges into that perception of the sphere of nothingness. It goes deep into the meditation, fully absorbed in the meditation. The mind brightens up, steadies, and frees itself, attains jhana. When he comes out of it, he reflects, he understands thus. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the perception of the sphere of infinite space. There are none here. Whatever breaking up there might be dependent on the perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness. There are none here. There is only this much breaking up, namely the oneness dependent on the sphere of nothingness. So he acknowledges this level of meditation, this formless jhana. He understands thus further down, 30. He understands that this field of perception is empty of the perception of infinite space. He understands that this field of perception is empty of the perception of the sphere of nothingness. There is only this non-emptiness, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of the sphere of nothingness. Thus he regards what is not there as empty, but as to what remains, he knows what it is. Thus, there is this sphere of nothingness. This Dasananda, this is his truly real, undistorted, utterly pure descent into emptiness. Now he comes to the last of the formless jhana, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, where the mind is so subtle you cannot say there is consciousness or no consciousness. This is section 9, the Pali Text Society, Pali. Furthermore, Ananda, a monk not attending to the perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness, not attending to the perception of sphere of nothingness, then attends to the oneness dependent on the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. This is very deep, very subtle meditation. His mind plunges into the perception of the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, brightens up, steadies, and freezes up. And it comes out and he reflects. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness, that is the jhana before this. There are none here, right? Put it down. 33. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the perception of the sphere of nothingness, there are none here. There's no breaking up here. There is only this much breaking up, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. So this is a very subtle level. This is the one that's very still. It's not breaking up, but of course it will break up later on when you end the meditation. He understands thus. This field of perception is empty of the perception of the sphere of infinite consciousness. He understands thus. This field of perception is empty of the perception of the sphere of nothingness. These are the two previous stages. There is only this non-emptiness, namely the oneness dependent on this perception of the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. This is the fourth formless jhana. Thus he regards what is not there as empty. Empty of the previous stages. But as to what remains there, he knows what that is. Thus, there is this. Thus, Ananda, this is his truly real, undistorted, utterly pure descent into emptiness. This is really deep focus. Now he's already reached the highest level of jhana that's possible for anyone to reach. He's not an arahat at this. Now he goes into this very special meditation, which only arahats can do. Number 7. There's a repetition. I think the 7 is not needed, because it's the same thing here. Furthermore, Ananda, a monk not attending to the perception of the sphere of nothingness, not attending to the perception of the sphere of neither perception or non-perception, then attends to the oneness dependent on the signless concentration of mind. Signless concentration, that means no mind object. In this case, the mind is just focused So you notice how from number 1 to number 6, right? From the forest, from the earth, the infinite space, and so on. Right? Letting go each stage. Those are all objects, mental objects, meditation objects. And now in this 7th stage, no object at all. So it's called a sightless concentration of mind. His mind plunges into that sightless concentration of mind, brightens up, steadies, and freezes up. So attains this joyful level. Okay. He understands that whatever breaking up there might be on account of the perception of the sphere of nothingness, there are none here. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of perception of the sphere of neither perception or non-perception, there are none here. There is only this much breaking up, that connected with the body, with its 6 sense spaces conditioned by life. Okay, now we come to this really tricky phrase, which no scholar or translator has explained. So I have to reflect on this. I say, what could this mean from the sutta itself? And from all that I've learned, it only means one thing, I think. Because before this, we all meditate on this the body. We start with the body, isn't it? And then there is the mind. There's the body, and there is the mind. Okay. Now let me just be sure. Just look at this note. So here the meditator switches to insight of all the things that he has experienced. Okay. He has gone to the signless meditation. The mind is pure mind. And then now he comes out of this state. He goes back to what remains is the body. He comes back and he says, oh, here's where I started. There is just this body. There is this body with the 5 aggregates, or we can say the 6 sense spaces, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And of course, there is life. So this, in other words, this meditation frees us or frees him from the body. And this awakening or this jhana, all these wonderful things happen within this body, not elsewhere, not outside. All right. So this, in other words, it's a body-based practice in the sense that as human beings who are alive, we can do this. We don't need some heavenly experience or some deva to come and help us. We do it with our own body as human beings. We realize awakening through this body. The Buddha appears as a human being. Okay, so this is the meaning of this. He sees this body, and this is the body that's breaking up. This is the body that is impermanent. It is in the same body we can attain awakening. So, reflecting in this way, he understands that this field of perception is empty of the perception of the sphere of nothingness. This field of perception is empty of the perception of the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. He understands thus there is only this non-perception, namely that which is connected with the body with the 6 sense spaces conditioned by life. So now only this living body remains. Thus he regards what is not there as empty, but as to what remains there, he knows what this is. There is this. So there's just this body. And this body is actually also empty in a sense. Thus, Ananda, this is his truly real, undistorted, utterly pure descent into emptiness. Okay. Now, further down, we're nearing the end already. So here, now, it's number 8 here. Arahat comes to signless concentration. So now, just now I said that only Arahats attain this. Actually, let me correct that. This one is a prelude to Arahathood. Okay, in other words, the person attains this state, and you can only do this in the stages mentioned earlier. It's not a simple thing to do. It's not found outside of Buddhist teachings. Only when you learn to talk about, when you understand the nature of non-self, then you can appreciate what the silence meditation really means. We don't see it as a sign, even in meditation. So it's quite tricky to talk about. You know? So here in stage 8, furthermore, Ananda, among not attending to the possession of the sphere of nothingness, not attending to the sphere of to the perception of the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, then attends to the oneness dependent on the signless concentration of mind. His mind plunges into that signless concentration of mind, brightens up, steadies and trees itself, attains jhana, and then comes out of it, he reflects on it. Okay, notice this. This is different. This is very important. 41. This signless concentration of mind is mentally constructed, intentionally formed, deliberately formed. Okay. What is constructed, intentionally formed, is impermanent, subject to ending. Now, this is the final breaking up. Okay. When he understands thus and sees thus, his mind is free from the influx of sense desire, no more sense desire. His mind is free from being, from existence, from becoming this and that, from rebirth. But there are two senses to being here. One is ambition, want to be this, want to be that, in narcissism, the ego taking over. The other one is rebirth, becoming this, becoming that in the next life. All that is gone. His mind is free from the influx of ignorance. He understands the Four Noble Truths completely. So this influx is what flows through our six senses, all the defilements to the six senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. They're all gone. It's free from these three. Now this is an early set, only three of them, okay? Three influxes. The Abhidhamma puts in four, so puts in views. You have sense desire, being, views, and ignorance. So when you realize all this, when it is free, when the mind is free, there comes the knowledge. Freed am I. Actually, here, in the case of the Arahat, he probably will only be aware of, it just says freedom, or just free, without any, the I is missing, in other words. So here, just to make it easy to understand in English, you say freed am I, okay? In fact, you should be reading as simply free or freed, okay? He understands thus, destroys birth. Holy life has been lived. What needs to be done has been done. There is no more of this state of being. Right? So this is the Arahathood pericope. This is the stock phrase to show this person has become an Arahat. Further down, he understands that whatever breaking up disturbance there might be on account of the influx of sense desire, the none here. Okay, here we can translate Dharata as disturbance, meaning defilements and trouble on account of sense desire, there are none here. Any breaking up on account of influx of being, there are none here. Whatever breaking up there might be on account of the influx of ignorance, there are none here. Not in the Arahat, that is. There is only this much breaking up, namely that connected with the six sense bases dependent on this body and conditioned by life. Now notice here, where this word breaking up makes very good sense, right? Only this body is breaking up, right? So these Arhat understand this. The field of perception is empty of the influx of sense desire. No more sense desire is gone. He understands thus this, what he sees now, the field of perception is empty of the influx of being. He understands thus this field of perception is empty of the influx of ignorance. He understands thus there is only this non-emptiness, namely that connected with the six sense bases dependent on this body, connected by life. This is called the awakening with remains. Sa upadi says nirvana. In other words, this arahat still lives, right? The Buddha awakens and then still lives, right? So the body is still there. So this is the rare description of that state. Thus he regards what is not there as empty, but as to what remains there, he knows what this is. Thus there is this. There is this means that's it. That's all. It comes, it goes, right? No permanence to it. Thus, Ananda, this is truly real, undistorted, utterly pure descent into supreme and unsurpassed emptiness. Notice this is the first time, the supreme and unsurpassed emptiness. This time, you don't go beyond this anymore. This is nirvana itself. This is another term for nirvana. Supreme, unsurpassed. You cannot go beyond this anymore. That's it. Emptiness, gone. Everything is clear. Now, the Buddha closes the teaching. Let's see, what does he say here? Further down, please. Go down. All right. So it tells Ananda, whatever recluses and Brahmin, any holy men or teachers or scholars in the past who attained to and abided in the pure, supreme, unsurpassed emptiness, they all attained and abided in the same utterly supreme, unsurpassed emptiness. So in other words, when they go to all this meditation, they attain the same nirvana. Ananda, whatever recluses and Brahmin in the future who will attain and abide in the pure, supreme, unsurpassed emptiness, they will attain and abide in the same utterly pure, supreme, unsurpassed emptiness. And then even in the present, it's the same. Ananda, whatever recluses Brahmin in the present who attain to and abide in a supreme, unsurpassed emptiness, they all attain and abide in the same utterly supreme, unsurpassed emptiness. Meaning they attain all the same awakening, same nirvana, in a manner of speaking. It's not same in the sense that there is this place called nirvana. It's just that it's empty. In that sense, it's the same. You know, there's no other way you can awaken except in this way. All right, further down. And therefore, Ananda, you should train yourself thus. We will attain to and abide in utterly pure, supreme, unsurpassed emptiness. So now the Buddha comes back to us, Ananda represents us, and say, this is what it should be the goal of your life, to reach this level also. This is what the Blessed One said, satisfied the Venerable Ananda rejoice in the Blessed One's word. Okay, sadhu.
Yeah, thank you for your teaching. Now we come to Q&A session. Sister, I think.
Sadhu Bhagavya. Thank you, Sister Ratna.
Okay.
Okay, the first question from Sister Helene.
All right.
Does Sutta provide any views? How do Arahants decide whether to abide in the form jhana or formless jhana, or abide in the emptiness or signless meditation?
Okay, this one depends on the ability of the meditator. All right. There are those who can meditate very well. So like Sariputta, Moggallana. So they will go through all the levels. Then they have this great very deep wisdom, and also the superpowers, all those, psychic powers and so on. Then there are others who meditate, reflect on impermanence. They also attain the destruction of the influxes, but they do not have all those superpowers. Right? So there are also those kind of arahants. So, in other words, awakening basically means no more rebirth, no more ignorance, no more desires. That is the basic thing. Right? But then there are other extra things like great knowledge and powers and so on. So it depends on the kind of meditation that they do. Well, in a sense, they don't have a choice. It depends on how well they can meditate, what sort of meditation they've been practicing and practicing properly and so on. Right? So a lot of it depends on how they prepare themselves, right? For example, if now you study hard, you practice, you build up your practice bit by bit, you will attain a deep level. Otherwise, if you think you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, at least you try the attainment of stream winning. You go that simple way first. You start there. That also will lead you to the path. Okay. All right. Let's go on.
Okay, thank you, Brother Bia. The next question from Sister Huilin is, does all arahants attain formless jhana as criteria before they attain arahanthood?
No. They can attain even form jhanas. Not. In fact, the suttas don't often mention the formless jhanas. This is interesting. This is one of those rare moments. Yeah. Mostly it will be the form jhanas. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Bia. The following question from Brother LCO. He mentioned this sutta today is on meditation and the method and processes to reach jhana, to reach signless concentration of mind. Can I share my experience and query as to every time I reach my 15 minutes of meditation, I felt like in a very pitch dark cave, looking into an opening to see floating cloud light of purplish color most of the time, and sometimes pinkish and sometimes bluish, and sometimes smell of flower or soft bell sound. This experience continues every time into tranquility, and the light cloud may becomes bigger and brighter. But I will start to feel a fear and awaken out of the meditation between 30 minutes to 60 minutes. Can you please help me to understand this process?
Okay. Now, every one of us, every one of you sitting here, okay, including myself, we all have done some kind of good deeds in the past that have given us this karmic potential, this karmic energy, karmic blessing, if you like, to stay here, to be able to study the sutta, listen to the sutta, and to understand it in some way, what's going on, right? And we are building up that kind of good karma bit by bit. It doesn't happen by accident. No one can force it on you, right? So we have that past good karma. It's just like you have inherited some money from in your family, someone has passed away, and then you're getting all this. So you're living quite well. But you cannot assume that it's always there because it will go away. You got to build it up or protect that wealth, right? So when you meditate, you see all these wonderful things coming back. They're your good karma. But remember, these are all your past karma. So the question now is, how do we put in present karma to invest in this past karma so that our experience will become better and we will come closer to the path? So this comes to the next part. The basic thing I always hear from meditation teachers, they tell you, remember all these things that you experience in meditation, no matter how fearful or how wonderful. Magic word, mind-made. They are all mind-made. Mano Maya, mind-made. They are made, they're created by the mind, projected by the mind. Of course, behind that, you have good karma and so on, right? In other words, there's nothing magical there. Whatever you experience is possible to experience. Just like when they talk about miracles, they say, whatever happens, happens because they can happen. In that sense, there are no miracles. Okay, they happen because they can happen. So the mind plays tricks with us. They look very nice, interesting, because we don't know what's going on, right? Imagine a child sees a rainbow in the sky. Wow, this is so beautiful. They love it. But when you learn science, you know why rainbows are formed, and they're not more interesting. But it's still, the rainbow is still beautiful, of course. So we see darkness, we see light in our meditation. This is natural when you close your eyes and when you go into meditation. So first thing, remember, they're all mind-made. And when you come out of your meditation, you remember these things. Again, tell yourself, all these are mind-made. They come and they go. And I should not be attached to them. Even this fear is mind-made. This joy is mind-made. But I can feel the peace. Now, what do I do with this peace? Right? And that is the question. What do you want to do with the peace? You have to build it up in a way which can bring you greater peace, greater freedom. This is something you must find out by studying the suttas, by looking at your life, where you can be better, where you can correct your faults and weaknesses. And only you can know this by, like a doctor watching the situation. Okay, so you look at yourself, use your wisdom, use your growing wisdom to deal with it, step by step, stage by stage. There's no sudden occurrence here. So use that wisdom, find out more about yourself, stage by stage, and build up your mental strength even more, progress from there. Okay, so think about this. All right, the keyword is mind-made. All right, next question, please.
Thank you, Brother Pia. There's no more question in the chat box at the moment.
Okay.
Any brothers and sisters would like to ask question, you may unmute yourself.
Yeah, about 7 minutes more.
Yeah, I want to ask a question. Section 42, the second influx you mentioned, influx of being. Sometimes you use existence.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you use becoming. Are they all the same?
Yeah, same. About, I think Bhava, right? The Pali word.
Yes, Bhava, Sava.
Yeah. So Bhava can translate as becoming, existence, being. Okay. Like I said, it refers to rebirth. Okay, future rebirth. It also refers to what we want to be in this life. I want to be this, I want to be that, and that sort of thing, right? So there are something like that. So in the present, it will be, I want to be this, I want to be that. In the future, it'll be rebirth. So it covers all those aspects, especially the later aspects anyway about rebirth. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in that sense, it is becoming. Some people translate as becoming, but it's not very popular, the word. It's not so accurate. All right.
Brother Pia, there's a follow-up question from Brother LC.
Okay.
And he's asking how to break the fear and move further into the meditation.
Okay. Don't own the fear. Show your metta to the fear. See this fear as a part of your mind. Okay. And it's just fear. Do not fear the fear. It's a mental state. It's impermanent. It's mind-made. So take it as it is. Fear becomes bad when we say, "Oh dear, I'm going to get into trouble." See, but I mean, you are all the way from your meditation until what you are here now. You have been safe. It's all in the mind. You see, so the fear is because you don't know what this is. It's something new, something wonderful. Even the first time we meet the Buddha, we might feel fearful, because oh, who is this man who looks so different from others, right? I mean, we all living 2,100 years later, we think, oh, the Buddha is very great. And when the Buddha really appears, we'll be terrified, I mean, we have so many symbols. In Chinese culture, you have this dragon, and we are so proud of the dragon. We put the picture of dragon everywhere. If a real dragon like that were to appear in the sky, I think you'll be terrified, isn't it? If Kuan Yin were to appear in real life in front of you, you'll be terrified, because humans don't look like that. They look, those great saints, the way they are drawn, they look beautiful, but when they appear in real life, they can be very frightening. So when we see these Dharma things in our mind, it can be fearful because we have not seen it before. And we wonder what it is. The fear comes from ignorance. And to overcome it, we use loving kindness. You say, you speak to this fear, may you be well and happy. I welcome you and I let you go. I welcome you and I let you go. Something like that, Okay. Next.
Okay, Brother SJ say thank you to you, Brother Pia.
All right.
Okay, there's no more question.
Okay, let's take a family photo first. Well, I hope you understand this sutta. This is quite a deep sutta. And then the next one will be Maha Sunyata Sutta, right? So emptiness. So notice this emptiness is more to do with meditation, not some big philosophical emptiness which nobody understands. Right?
Yeah, here the perception of earth,
Mm-hmm.
can it refer to the Kasina, Earth Kasina meditation also?
Yeah, technically it refers to the Earth Kasina. But here, what is interesting is you see the progress, from very simple, what is before us, you start there, and you progress from there. So if you are meditating next time, let's say in the garden, beautiful lake gardens or what, you sit under a tree, and you got to find a place where it's quite quiet, without people, and then you see this trees all around you, and then you feel so happy and peaceful, and then you switch, when you're very peaceful, then you switch to meditating on earth. Okay. Here, of course, it's a bit difficult if you are in the lake. There's so many things there. So here you got to visualize land, the earth, as a flat piece of earth. So this is where, when in your travels, in your daily movement, you might come to some area, you see a spread of earth, especially where they have spread the earth, that they're doing a building, or there's just this field, beautiful field, very flat. Then use that for your meditation. Okay, so you kind of record that in your mind and imagine, picture that as earth. Earth, close your eyes, picture it, and then open eyes, look at it again. All right. Another way, I suppose, if you're outer space, you see the round globe Earth. Okay, that also can be used as your meditation of Earth. That's interesting because from outer space, although it's a globe, but you see the globe as like flat, like a disc. That's how the ancients they see the world. They think the world is a disc, which is flat. Right? But it's just a way of calming the mind, in other words. And then from there, you go on stage by stage to the various formless jhanas. Of course, you can switch to the form jhanas in this case too, if you want. All right, so time's up, man.
Concept.
Okay. All right. No more urgent questions, huh? Finish? Okay, so let us close with a reflection. Right. So once again, let us now spend this moment in peace and joy. We have accomplished another 2 hours of renunciation, sitting here peacefully. We have emptied ourselves of our daily work, our busyness, And here we are, just be with ourselves to study the Dhamma, to practice meditation, keep the precepts, listen to the teachings, and learn more about ourselves. All these are wonderful good karma. By all these good deeds I've done, tell yourself, may I be well and happy, may I be wise and my mind calm and clear, so I will understand things at once when I hear them and read them. Reflect in that way. Keep telling yourself that, and you will build your strength that way. And remember all the important people in your life, send your loving kindness to them, send your good wishes to them, your relatives, your friends, your teachers, even your enemies. Wish them well and happy. And most of all, let us show our appreciation and gratitude to the three jewels, the Buddha, our teacher, the Dhamma, the teaching that we follow, and that will bring us freedom and joy. And the noble Sangha, the great Arahants, have set good examples for us. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.